Dear children of light, listen to me with awakened hearts. There is a revelation that has been hidden from you. Right now, while billions of people sleep in spiritual ignorance, something extraordinary is taking place behind the veil of the unseen. The Virgin Mary is trying to reach you with an urgent message, an ancient protection that must be activated before 2026 arrives in its full force. And you are about to learn why only 3 specific plants can create a spiritual shield around your home, one that the forces of darkness cannot penetrate. But you must understand this from the start. This is not an ordinary message, and you did not arrive here by chance. Out of millions of videos that could have appeared on your screen at this moment, this one did, and that is no coincidence. Write in the comments, "God is restoring my soul." Weeks ago, a visionary in a small village in Portugal received an apparition that changed everything we thought we knew about spiritual protection. The Virgin Mary appeared with a different expression, one of urgency and deep concern. In her hands, she held something unexpected, 3 small branches of plants. They were not just decorative flowers or empty symbols. They were living keys capable of locking the doors of your home against invisible forces that seek to destroy your peace, your family, and your faith. The seer described how Mary wept as she showed the plants, not tears of ordinary sorrow, but of a mother watching her children walk unprotected through a spiritual minefield. Then she said something that should make your heart race. In 2026, the homes without this protection will feel the weight of its absence. This is not superstition or shallow mysticism. It is an authentic Marian revelation, one confirmed by simultaneous events happening in different parts of the world. Around the same time, a family in Brazil woke to find 3 plants mysteriously growing outside their door, plants that had not been planted and had appeared overnight. When they consulted a priest, he turned pale. They were the same 3 species the Virgin had revealed in Portugal, the same combination, the same message. How can this be explained by human logic? It cannot, because some things rise above our limited understanding. Since the beginning of time, ever since God formed the Garden of Eden, plants have carried spiritual codes. They were created not only to feed our bodies, but also to heal our souls and protect our spirits. Scripture is full of sacred references to holy trees, healing herbs, and plants that mark divine encounters. The burning bush was no ordinary shrub. The olive tree is more than just wood. The cedar of Lebanon holds power beyond its timber. Every plant on earth carries a spiritual frequency, a mission from God. Yet, over the centuries, this wisdom was forgotten, buried under layers of doubt and cold faith that lost touch with the supernatural. Now the Virgin Mary brings this knowledge back with urgency, because something is coming. You can feel it, can't you? There is a heaviness in the air, a rising tension. The world feels darker, people more restless, as if we stand on the brink of something immense. And you are right to sense it. Visionaries and mystics across the world speak in unison. 2026 will not be an ordinary year. It will be a time of testing, when many families will face storms they never imagined. The question is, will your home be protected? Will your family have the shield the Virgin offers? There was once a family who ignored such warnings. They were practicing Catholics, attending Mass and praying the Rosary from time to time. But when they heard about spiritual protection through sacred plants, they laughed it off, calling it superstition. "We have our faith," they said. Perhaps it would have been enough if their faith had been more than a cultural habit. 6 months later, strange things began happening in their home: objects falling without reason, unsettling sounds in the night, and a heavy presence that caused nightmares. The youngest daughter had terrifying visions, and the teenage son fell into a deep, sudden depression. When they finally sought spiritual help, the exorcist told them words that broke them: "You left the doors open. There is no protection in this house. You do not want to be that family. You do not want to wake up in 2027 wondering why you ignored the warning when it reached you. This is your moment. This revelation is arriving in your life right now for a divine reason. The Virgin Mary is calling you by name. She is saying, 'My son, my daughter, protect your home, protect your family, and use the tools I am giving you.' These tools are so simple and accessible that you might wonder how something so small could hold such great power. But that is exactly how God works. He uses what the world despises to confuse the wise, and what seems weak to overcome what appears strong. The 3 plants revealed by the Virgin are not exotic. You can easily find them. You can grow them in your backyard, on your balcony, or even in small pots inside your apartment. But when you place them with spiritual intention, dedicate them to the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mary, water them with prayer and keep them in faith, they become something completely different. They become sentinels, unseen guardians that work day and night, 7 days a week, creating a barrier that evil spirits cannot cross. Does it sound unbelievable? It should, because we are dealing with realities beyond physical laws. This is spiritual warfare. Do you know what true spiritual warfare is? It is not a theory or a metaphor. It is a concrete reality where invisible forces battle for territory, and that territory is your life, your mind, your home, and your family. When St. Paul said we do not fight against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, he was not being poetic. He was describing the very battlefield we all live on, whether we believe it or not. And in this battle, you need weapons. Prayer is a weapon. Fasting is a weapon. The sacraments are weapons. And now, through this Marian revelation, you are being given 3 botanical weapons, plants blessed and designated for the time we live in. You must understand the prophetic moment we are in. This is no longer an age of quiet evangelization. It is an age of open battle. The enemy no longer hides in the shadows. He is marching openly, conquering cultural, moral, and spiritual ground. Families are being torn apart with frightening efficiency. Children are losing their innocence before they even learn to read. Moral confusion runs so deep that people can no longer tell right from wrong. And in the midst of all this, the Virgin Mary appears with a practical, tangible solution, something you can act on today. Because she is a mother, and mothers don't give lectures when the house is on fire, they show you where the exit is. The first sacred plant revealed by the Virgin is rosemary. And before you think you already know rosemary, because you use it in cooking or see it growing in gardens, let me tell you, you do not truly know it. You know its physical form, but not its spiritual purpose. You don't know why, among all plants God could have chosen, this one was anointed with special protection for homes in the final days. When you learn the hidden story of rosemary, when you understand its deep connection to the Virgin Mary, your view of that simple shrub will never be the same again. Declare with faith, "He has not forgotten me." There is an ancient tradition passed down orally among the first Christians. It tells that when Mary, Joseph, and the baby Jesus fled to Egypt to escape Herod's persecution, they often had to hide along the way. On one such occasion, with Roman soldiers dangerously close, Mary prayed for protection. At that moment, a rosemary bush nearby grew miraculously, multiplying its branches and forming a green curtain around the Holy Family. The soldiers passed within meters of them and saw nothing. The rosemary had hidden them. When Mary and Joseph were safe to continue their journey, she blessed the plant, saying, "From this day on, wherever you grow, there will be protection." You can verify this. Search the early Christian oral traditions, ask scholars of sacred history, and you will find that across dozens of Christian cultures on different continents, the same story exists, the same teaching: rosemary as a plant of protection, blessed by the Mother of God herself. How could that be if it were just a legend? How could isolated cultures share the same account? Because it is not a legend, it is spiritual memory, truth passed down through generations by people who knew what we have forgotten, that the unseen world is more real than the visible one. The visionary, who received the recent apparition in Portugal, was given specific instructions for how to use rosemary in 2026. It is not enough to simply have the plant. It must be consecrated in a particular way. The process involves 3 elements: holy water, a specific prayer, and strategic placement. The Virgin Mary was clear: rosemary should be planted near the main entrance of the house. If you live in an apartment, it should be kept in a pot just inside the door. Before planting, the soil must be blessed. Make the sign of the cross over the soil, sprinkle holy water, and pray, "Virgin Mary, just as this rosemary protected you in the desert, may it now protect this home under your care." When you do this, something happens in the spiritual realm. The angels guarding your home receive instructions. A boundary is marked, a line that dark forces cannot easily cross. You will not see this with physical eyes, nor will there be a sudden dramatic sign. But in the days and weeks that follow, you will begin to notice a change. A peace in the atmosphere, fewer arguments, calmer sleep, a feeling that something has shifted, though you cannot fully explain it. This is not imagination. It is spiritual reality becoming visible in the natural world. There is a couple in Spain who followed these instructions 8 months ago. They were on the verge of divorce. Their communication had become toxic. The children were pulling away, and the house had turned into a constant emotional battlefield. When they heard about the revelation of rosemary, they decided to try it, not because they truly believed, but because they were desperate. They planted the rosemary as instructed, consecrated it with prayer, and on the very first night, both of them had the same dream. They saw a woman dressed in white walking through the rooms of the house, touching the walls and whispering something they could not hear, yet it felt like a blessing. The next day, for the first time in months, they were able to talk without shouting. In the following week, their teenage son, who had become aggressive and rebellious, apologized on his own. A month later, the wife said to her husband, "I do not know what happened, but this house feels different. It is like someone has cleaned the air." You can call this coincidence if you want. You can rationalize it, explain it with psychology, or a change in attitude. But when the same results appear in different homes, in different countries, among people who do not know each other and never exchanged information, people who simply followed the same Marian instructions, you have to start admitting that something greater is happening. There is a real power at work through these plants. A power that does not depend on how strong your faith is at the beginning, but that is activated by your obedience. Because faith is not a feeling, faith is action. It is doing what God asks even when you do not fully understand. Rosemary also carries spiritual symbolism connected to mental clarity and discernment. The Virgin explained to the visionary that one of the enemy's tactics for 2026 will be massive mental confusion. People will not know whom to trust, what to believe, or which path to follow. There will be so many conflicting voices, so many narratives fighting for attention, so much informational chaos, that even firm Christians will feel disoriented. That is where rosemary comes in. When you keep this consecrated plant in your home, when you occasionally rub its leaves between your fingers and inhale its fragrance while you pray, something begins to shift in your mind. The inner fog lifts, the confusion lessens, and you start to see more clearly and discern more accurately. This is not magic, it is cooperation with grace. God created rosemary with properties that can calm, focus, and strengthen the mind. But He went beyond natural design. He invested this plant with a special mission when He allowed it to protect His Son. And now, through this Marian revelation, He is inviting you to share in that protection. He is placing in your hands a tool that acts on both natural and supernatural levels, a plant that blesses your body and guards your soul at the same time. But you must act quickly. The Virgin Mary was very clear about the timing. The plants must be in place before the end of January 2026. That gives you only a short time to establish this protection. You may ask yourself, why such urgency, why this specific date? Because in February 2026, according to multiple converging prophetic revelations, a significant spiritual event is scheduled. No one knows exactly what it will look like. It might be a wave of demonic manifestations, a catastrophic moral collapse, or direct persecution against Christians, but something is coming. And the homes that are not protected will feel its impact in a painful and devastating way. Do you really want to take that risk? Do you want to arrive in March 2026 and realize that you should have taken this warning seriously? The tragedy of spiritual life is that warnings always come before disasters, but most people only wake up after the disaster has already begun, when it is much harder to reverse the damage. Then you are stuck in damage control, trying to repair what has been broken, heal what has been wounded, and drive out what has already settled in, when you could simply have blocked its entrance from the beginning. Prevention is always easier than deliverance. Always. Rosemary is your first line of defense. It is the soldier at your door, the guardian angel in plant form. When you treat it with reverence, when you water it with prayer, when you consecrate it weekly with holy water, it becomes something extraordinary. It becomes a spiritual beacon that attracts angels and repels demons. It becomes a living altar where the presence of Mary remains, watching, protecting, interceding, until your home becomes what it was always meant to be, a sanctuary, a piece of heaven on earth, place where the kingdom of darkness has no authority. The second sacred plant revealed by the Virgin Mary is rue. This is where things become even more intense. Rue is not only protective, it is a warrior. It is offensive. While rosemary forms a defensive shield, rue acts like a sword that cuts ties, breaks curses, and destroys works of witchcraft. And before you say this does not apply to you because you are not involved with such things, you need to wake up to a hard truth. You do not need to practice the occult to be targeted by it. You may be under attacks and curses you know nothing about, spoken by people who envy you, resent you, or silently desire your downfall. Confirm your miracle by writing, "Amen, Lord, I receive your word." 3 months ago, a woman in Mexico was awakened in the middle of the night by a terrifying dream. She dreamed she was in her own house, but the walls were covered with strange symbols written in blood. In the middle of the living room, there was a hooded figure making gestures over a photo of her. When she woke up, she was drenched in sweat, her heart racing. She thought it was just a nightmare, but in the days that followed, everything began to go wrong. She lost her job without explanation. The car broke down 3 times in the same week. Her children started getting sick with symptoms the doctors could not explain. Then, in a casual conversation with a neighbor, she discovered something devastating. Her husband's ex-wife had gone to a witch 6 months earlier to do a work of separation and destruction against her. A ritual meant to annihilate the family. This is more common than you think. There are millions of people right now paying sorcerers, witches, and occult practitioners to perform spiritual works against their enemies, against rivals, against people they barely know but envy or hate. And these works have real power, not because the devil is stronger than God, never, but because when you are not protected, when you are not covered by the authority of Christ, when you have no active spiritual defenses, you are vulnerable. It is like walking through a dangerous neighborhood with no security and all your doors unlocked. You are practically asking to be attacked. Rue was revealed as the specific antidote to this kind of attack. When the visionary asked the Virgin Mary why rue in particular, Our Lady explained, "This plant was created by my Son to undo knots. Where there are spiritual ties, it loosens them. Where there are invisible chains, it breaks them. Where there are demonic contracts made against a family, it cancels them." Then the Virgin showed something that brought the visionary to tears. She saw layers and layers of invisible black threads attached to people, threads coming from ritual houses, occult centers, witchcraft shops, and places of dark practices. These threads worked as channels through which curses, illnesses, misery, and destruction were sent. But when consecrated rue was present in a home, those threads snapped. They simply dissolved as if they had never existed. Science cannot explain this, because science deals only with the material world. But you are not only matter, you are spirit. You exist in multiple dimensions at once, and in these other dimensions, battles are happening all the time, battles over your destiny, your mental health, your peace, your family. Most people lose these battles simply because they do not know they are fighting. They blame everything on natural causes, bad luck, fate, circumstances, when in reality invisible hands are orchestrating destruction against them. Rue must be planted in a clay pot, never in plastic. Clay has spiritual meaning. We were formed from the dust. The earth is sacred. When you plant rue in clay, you create a link between heavenly protection and earthly reality. The Virgin instructs that the rue should be placed in the window of the main bedroom, where you sleep, because during sleep you are more vulnerable and spiritual attacks are more intense at night. Have you ever woken up unable to move, feeling a heavy weight on your chest, sensing an evil presence in the room? That is not just ordinary sleep paralysis. It is a direct spiritual attack. When rue is placed correctly and consecrated with prayer, it creates a spiritual war zone around your bed. The consecration protocol for rue is different from rosemary. You must take a branch of the plant, burn frankincense, the same incense the wise men offered to Jesus, and pass the smoke over the rue while praying 3 Hail Marys and declaring, "I now break every curse, every binding, every spiritual work done against this house and its residents. By the power of the blood of Jesus and through the intercession of the Virgin Mary, I declare this house sacred territory where the enemy has no authority." When you do this, you exercise spiritual authority and claim what is yours by inheritance in Christ. An evangelical pastor in Brazil, yes, an evangelical, witnessed something extraordinary. He was praying for deliverance over a family that had been tormented for years. During the prayer, the demon manifesting in the person said something shocking. "We used to have full access to this house, but now we cannot even step onto the balcony. There is something there that burns us." The pastor was confused, went to check the balcony, and there he found a pot of rue that the Catholic mother of the family had placed months earlier, following the Marian protocol. The pastor, a man of God from another Christian tradition, recognized the truth and said, "God uses whatever he wants. And if he chose a plant to protect his children, who are we to question it?" Rue also has medicinal properties already recognized in traditional medicine. It is anti-inflammatory, antispasmodic, and helps expel parasites. But there is one property science cannot measure. It breaks spells, shatters enchantments, dissolves occult works. And you do not need to fully believe for it to work. You need to obey and put it into practice. God's grace does not depend on your complete understanding, but on your simple obedience. There is a woman in Argentina who was about to lose everything. Her husband had left her and the children for another woman. It was not a normal separation. It was sudden, violent, as if he had been taken over by another spirit. Family friends said it looked like witchcraft. When they investigated, they found out that the new woman took part in spiritual rituals and had done a binding work to tie the man to her. The Catholic wife, desperate, went to seek a priest. He instructed her to plant rue and consecrate it, following the exact Marian protocol. She did as told. 7 days later, her husband appeared at the door, confused, as if waking from a trance. "I don't know what happened to me," he said. "It was as if I wasn't myself. but today I woke up and knew I needed to come back home. They reconciled, the family was restored, and even today that Rue remains on the windowsill, watching and protecting. Do you have moments in your own life that make no sense? Patterns of destruction that repeat, opportunities that slip away at the last moment, relationships that always end in inexplicable ways. It could be bad luck, the natural consequences of your choices, but it could also be spiritual warfare you are not seeing. Rue is the way the Virgin Mary is giving you to clear the battlefield, to break what needs to be broken, to free what needs to be liberated. This is not superstition, it is heavy artillery in the spiritual world. The third and final plant revealed by the Virgin Mary is the most surprising of all, the white lily. Here is what you need to understand. Each plant has a specific function in this protective trio. Rosemary protects, rue breaks, but the lily consecrates. It transforms your home into sacred territory. It invites the divine presence to dwell permanently in your rooms. It turns your ordinary residence into a sanctuary where God chooses to live. And when God dwells in your home, what can harm you? When the Holy of Holies makes his home in your house, which demon would be foolish enough to try to enter? If this message is for you, share it as an act of faith. The lily has a deep history in Marian tradition. It is the flower associated with the Virgin's purity, the Annunciation by the angel Gabriel, and her immaculate innocence. In ancient paintings, Mary is always shown with lilies. They are her botanical signature. There is a reason for this that goes beyond aesthetics. The lily carries a spiritual frequency of holiness so intense that demons cannot bear its presence. It is like light to vampires in folklore, like salt to slugs. The consecrated presence of the lily creates an atmosphere where evil cannot breathe, function, or operate. The visionary reported that when the Virgin Mary showed the lily, she held it with such reverence it seemed she was holding something infinitely precious. "This is the greatest gift I can give to my children," Mary said. "This flower carries the memory of the day I said yes to God. It carries the energy of the moment when the Holy Spirit overshadowed me, and the Word became flesh in my womb." When you place a consecrated lily in your home, you are repeating my fiat. You are saying to God, "Let it be done to me according to your word." And God responds to this just as he responded to me. He comes to live with you. This is not symbolic. This is literal. When you consecrate a white lily following the Marian protocol, and keep it in your home, the manifest presence of God increases in that space. You may not feel it immediately, but others will. Visitors will comment that something is different in your home. Some will feel uncomfortable without knowing why, especially if they carry spiritual oppression. Others will feel inexplicably at peace, want to stay longer, say your home feels like a church. There is a story of a family in Italy who followed the protocol for all three plants: rosemary at the entrance, rue at the bedroom window, lily in the main room. A month after implementing this, they received a visit from an uncle who was a declared atheist, someone who mocked faith and ridiculed anything religious. He entered the house, stayed silent for a few minutes, and then, to everyone's shock, began to cry. "What is happening here?" he asked. "I feel like someone is hugging me." That night, he asked to pray with the family, 2 months later, he returned to church after 30 years away and completely converted. When asked what caused the change, he always said, "I cannot explain it. But in that house I felt God, and after feeling that, I could not deny Him." The lily should be grown in a white pot and placed in a central part of the house, preferably in the room where the family gathers. The Virgin instructed that next to the lily, there should always be a white candle lit during family prayers. The combination of the candle's light and the lily's fragrance creates what mystics call a grace portal, a gap in the veil between the natural and supernatural, through which blessings flow more freely, prayers are heard more clearly, and miracles happen more often. Do you want miracles in your life? Do you want to see God act tangibly? Then create an environment where He feels welcome, where He is honored, where He is sought. Most people pray for miracles, but live in homes that are spiritually polluted, houses where television broadcasts immorality for 12 hours a day, music glorifies violence and promiscuity, constant fights, profanity, pornography, and addictions. Then they wonder why God does not answer their prayers. It is not that God does not want to answer. It is that He does not dwell in environments that dishonor Him. The consecrated lily is a declaration: this house is for the glory of God. This house is sacred territory. The consecration of the lily is the most elaborate of the three. You must wait for the flower to fully bloom. When that happens, a small family ceremony should be held. All members of the household should be present. Light the white candle. Pray the rosary before the lily. Then, one by one, each person should gently touch the petals of the flower while declaring, "I consecrate this house to the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mary." Let this lily be a perpetual reminder that here is the dwelling of the Most High. After the ceremony, the candle must remain lit for 3 full hours while the family remains in contemplative silence or quiet prayer. This may seem elaborate, it may seem demanding, but it is because this is serious, because you are doing something with eternal consequences. You are marking spiritual territory. You are declaring to heaven and hell, this house belongs to God. And when you do this with genuine faith, authentic reverence, and a pure heart, heaven responds. The angels receive orders to watch over that house in a special way. Divine protection is activated at levels you never knew existed. And the devil loses the jurisdiction he once held. A French exorcist with 40 years of experience dealing with cases of demonic possession and infestation said something in a recent interview that should make you pause and pay attention. In all the cases of domestic infestation I have attended, and they number in the hundreds, I have never, not once, found demons able to establish themselves in a home where consecrated white lilies to the Virgin Mary were present. They may try to enter, they may linger, but they cannot take root, they cannot make a nest. It is as if the lily is poison to them. This is the testimony of someone who deals daily with the worst of the spiritual underworld, someone who has seen things that would keep you awake for weeks. And he is telling you, the lily works, but there is one important condition. The lily must remain alive. If the plant dies, the protection diminishes significantly. This requires care, attention, and love. You must water it, ensure it receives adequate light, and even speak to the plant. Yes, speak to it, because plants respond to human intention. Scientific studies have shown that plants treated with care and affection grow healthier than those ignored or mistreated. And when you treat the consecrated lily as the sacred tool it is, when you water it while praying, when you regard it as a living symbol of Mary's presence in your home, something extraordinary happens. The plant thrives, and with it, the protection over your family grows stronger. Do you now see why the Virgin Mary specifically chose these 3 plants? It was not random, it was strategic. Each covers a different aspect of spiritual warfare. Rosemary for defensive perimeter. Rue for breaking direct attacks. Lily for establishing the divine presence that makes your home impregnable. It is a complete system. It is a spiritual fortress in 3 layers. When all 3 are operating together, your home becomes what heaven intended, a piece of paradise on earth, a place where God's kingdom is established, a sanctuary where your family can grow in holiness, protected from the storms ravaging the world outside. Now that you know the 3 sacred plants, you must understand the greater prophetic context of why this revelation is arriving now, at this moment in history. The Virgin Mary does not appear without reason. She does not give random warnings. Every apparition, every revelation, every Marian message is connected to specific events about to unfold in human history. And what is coming for 2026 is something that will make recent years seem like child's play. We are entering a period of intensified tribulation. This is not said to frighten you, but to prepare you, because fear paralyzes, but preparation empowers. Take a moment and write, "Thank you, God, for not letting me go." Prophetic convergence is happening from multiple sources. Catholic visionaries around the world, who do not know each other, are receiving similar messages about 2026, a period of great trial, a time of separation between the wheat and the chaff, a moment when masks will fall and people will reveal who they truly are. You will discover that people you thought were Christians were only religious by tradition, without true faith, and you will find deep faith in unexpected places, in people you underestimated. But most of all, you will discover who you really are when pressure rises, when the cost of following Christ becomes real, when it is no longer socially acceptable to be Christian. Prophecies speak of a severe economic crisis that will affect the first half of 2026. This will not be mere market fluctuation, it will be structural collapse in several economies at once. This will create mass panic and social chaos. In this chaos, authoritarian regimes will strengthen further. We already see the signs, freedom being eroded under the pretext of security, increasing censorship against Christian voices. But in 2026, this will accelerate dramatically. Families without spiritual protection, families without a solid foundation in God, will collapse along with the economy. That is why the plants, that is why the urgency. Because when the storm comes, and it will come, you will need a home that is a refuge. A home where God's peace dwells regardless of the chaos outside. A home where your children can feel safe even when the world is on fire. A home where you can sleep at night without being tormented by nightmares, without being oppressed by spirits of anxiety and fear that will circulate in the air as never before. The 3 consecrated plants create this refuge. They make your home an ark in the midst of the flood that is coming. There are also prophecies about a spiritual pandemic, not a physical disease like we have recently seen, but a contamination of the soul on a massive scale. A wave of demonic possessions, spiritual oppressions, and malignant supernatural manifestations that will cause people to question reality itself. This spiritual attack is already beginning. Have you noticed the statistics on mental health, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, all at record levels and still rising? Do you think this is only about unbalanced brain chemistry? It is coordinated spiritual attack. It is an army of demons of depression, despair, and self-destruction marching freely because society's spiritual defenses have been completely dismantled. But here is the good news. You do not need to be a victim. You can prepare. You can fortify your home, your mind, your family. The tools the Virgin Mary is giving are so powerful that you will not only be protected, but you will be in a position to help others. Your home can become a refuge not only for your family, but for desperate friends, neighbors in crisis, people who do not know where to find peace. When they enter your home and feel the difference, when they experience the atmosphere of holiness that the consecrated plants help create, you will have opportunities for evangelization like never before. The visionary in Portugal reported a specific vision the Virgin Mary showed her: 2 houses side by side on the same street. Both families were Christian, both went to church, but one had implemented the protection of the 3 plants, and the other had not. When the spiritual storm arrived, represented in the vision as a black cloud descending over the city, the protected house shone with a golden light. The cloud could not touch it, passing over and around, but not penetrating. Inside that house, the family was at peace, praying together, completely unaware of the terror outside. But in the house next door, the cloud entered, and the people inside began attacking one another, screaming, hurting each other, completely overtaken by spirits of confusion and violence. It is a disturbing vision, but it is a warning given in love. The Virgin Mary does not want you to be the second house. She is giving you time to become the first, giving you the tools, giving you the instructions. Now it depends on you, on your obedience, on whether you take this revelation seriously instead of just watching passively and forgetting it when the video ends. Many will watch to the end, be moved, maybe even comment something nice, but will not act, and then face 2026 completely unprotected. There is also the matter of celestial signs. Multiple astronomers, both secular and Christian, are pointing to rare astronomical phenomena that will occur in 2026, planetary alignments that happen only once every several centuries, eclipses in prophetic patterns, comets visible to the naked eye. In the Bible, whenever signs appear in the heavens, something significant is happening on earth. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. Jesus said so. And 2026 will have these signs in abundance. The physical universe is aligning with the spiritual calendar. The Virgin Mary, in her recent apparitions, has spoken of a time of mercy that is closing. Not that God's mercy ends, never. But there are specific windows when grace is offered especially abundantly, when God is particularly willing to forgive, restore, and save. And these windows do not stay open forever. There comes a time when justice must be manifested, when the consequences of human choices must be faced. Many prophets say we are in the last months of this extraordinary window of mercy. This means you must act now, not tomorrow, not next week, now. Every day that passes is one less day of preparation. Every day you delay is one more day of vulnerability. With what is coming, you cannot afford to be unprepared. You cannot afford to discover too late that you should have taken seriously the warnings God was sending. The 3 plants are not the only thing you need to do. They are part of a broader protection that includes consistent prayer, active sacramental life, regular confession, fasting, works of mercy. But they are a crucial part. They are the physical and spiritual protection of your home, the first level of defense. When combined with a growing life of holiness, they create a fortress almost impenetrable around your family. There is one aspect of the 3 plants that has not been fully explored, but is absolutely crucial: the importance of the faith of the one who plants and maintains them. You can do every protocol correctly, position the plants exactly as instructed, consecrate them with the right prayers. But if you do all this mechanically, without true faith, without an engaged heart, without real commitment to God, the protection will be limited. The plants do work, because they have been blessed and designated by God for this purpose, but they work fully only when there is living faith behind their implementation. Faith is not just feeling. You already know this. But faith is not just action either. Faith is deep trust in God even when circumstances make no sense. It is believing He is good even when life seems bad. It is trusting He has a plan even when everything seems chaotic. When you plant these plants with this kind of faith, when you water them with prayers that come from a heart truly seeking God, something extraordinary happens. The plants become more than just vegetation. They become living sacramentals. They become channels through which God's grace flows continually into your home. There was a documented case in Ireland where a family planted the 3 plants, followed all the protocols, but did so with skepticism. They did it because someone they respected asked, but they themselves did not believe it would work. For 3 months, nothing changed. The house remained oppressive, the fights continued, the problems persisted. They were about to pull out the plants and throw everything away, thinking it was nonsense. But then, on a night of total despair, when everything seemed lost, the mother of the family fell to her knees in the living room before the lily and cried from the depths of her soul, "God, I don't know if this works. I'm praying, but I need you. I need help. I need a miracle. And if these plants are truly your tool, please show me." That night, she had a dream. She dreamed that the Virgin Mary was in her living room, touching each of the 3 plants. And Mary said, "They have always been working, but you were not working. You were waiting for magic when I was offering relationship." When the woman woke up, something had changed within her. She began treating the plants differently. She started praying sincerely as she watered them. She began to see them not as lucky charms, but as visible signs of God's invisible presence. And within 2 weeks, everything in the house changed. The husband, who had been on the verge of leaving, decided to stay and fight for the marriage. The children, who had been rebellious, began to calm down. An atmosphere of peace finally settled over that home. Do you understand what happened there? The plants did not change. What changed was the heart of that woman. And when her heart changed, the protection that had already been technically active became experientially manifest. Because God does not operate through magical formulas, He operates through relationship. He responds to genuine faith. He responds to the heart that truly seeks Him. And the plants are tools that facilitate that relationship, that create moments of encounter with God, that remind you daily that you are under divine protection. But the tool only works in the hands of one who knows how to use it with faith. So, as you implement these protections, examine your heart. Are you doing this because you truly believe God can protect your home through these means? Or are you doing it out of superstition? If it is superstition, you are wasting your time. But if it is faith, even if it is a small faith like a mustard seed, even if it is a faith full of doubts, but genuinely seeking truth, then you will see wonders, you will see God move, you will experience protection that defies logical explanation. There is another important point: ongoing spiritual maintenance. The plants are not plant and forget. They require constant care, both on the natural and spiritual levels. Naturally, you need to water them, prune them when necessary, ensure they have adequate light and nutrients. Spiritually, you need to reconsecrate them regularly. The recommendation is that every Friday, traditionally associated with the Passion of Christ and the Immaculate Heart of Mary, you renew the protection. Sprinkle holy water over the 3 plants, pray an Ave Maria before each one, and declare again that your home is sacred territory. This may seem burdensome to some, but consider: you brush your teeth every day, bathe regularly, change your sheets weekly. These are routines of physical hygiene you do not question. Why should spiritual hygiene be any different? Your soul needs regular cleansing just as much as your body. Your home needs frequent spiritual purification just as much as physical cleaning. And dedicating 10 minutes every Friday to renewing the Marian protection over your home is the minimum you can do, considering what is at stake. There is also a communal aspect. When several homes in a neighborhood implement the 3 plants, something remarkable happens. A network of protection forms. It is like cells of faith strengthening one another. The angels assigned to guard each home begin to cooperate, creating spiritual coverage over the entire area. This can transform neighborhoods, even cities. Imagine if thousands of homes in a city implemented this. You would be creating an urban spiritual fortress, a place where demons would find it extremely difficult to operate freely. Some ask, what about those who live in situations where they cannot plant anything? Tiny apartments, temporary shelters, nursing homes. The Virgin Mary did not forget these situations. For cases where living plants cannot be maintained, there is an alternative. You can use dried branches of the 3 plants, consecrated in the same way, and keep them in small vases, or even framed as living pictures on the wall. The protection will not be as intense as with living plants, because living plants breathe, grow, and interact with the spiritual energy of the environment. But consecrated dried branches still carry power, still mark territory, still serve as visible symbols that the space is under Marian protection. What you absolutely cannot do is nothing. You cannot watch this message, understand the urgency, grasp the gravity of the prophetic moment we are in, and then simply continue your life as if nothing has changed. If you do that, you are deliberately choosing to remain vulnerable. And when 2026 arrives with its full force, when the things being prophesied begin to manifest, you will not be able to say you were not warned. You will not be able to complain to God that He did not give you the opportunity to protect yourself, because He is giving it now, through this message, through this Marian revelation. Now, let us speak about the cost of ignoring this warning, because it is crucial that you fully understand what is at risk. I am not trying to manipulate you with fear. I am showing you the raw spiritual reality. I am telling you what prophets, mystics, and visionaries are seeing happen to families who choose not to prepare. And what they are seeing is devastating. Homes being spiritually invaded, families being torn apart, people losing their faith completely because they were overwhelmed by trials for which they were not prepared. The tragedy is that all of this could have been avoided with proper preparation. You are not here by chance. Out of millions of videos, something divine brought you to this message. Share in the comments, declare with faith, He has not forgotten me. Let it represent your connection with the sacred in this moment. Together, we will create a collective prayer that rises straight to the heavens. There is a pattern that repeats itself in all great historical trials. There are always two groups, those who prepared and those who did not. When the flood came in Noah's time, there were those who entered the ark and those who remained outside. When the plagues fell on Egypt, there were homes marked with the blood of the Lamb and those that were not marked. When Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 AD, there were Christians who fled to the mountains as Jesus had instructed, and there were those who stayed and were killed. The difference was never luck. It was always obedience to prophetic warnings. And 2026 will be no different. There will be those who listened to the Virgin Mary, who implemented the protections, who prepared their homes. And there will be those who ignored the warnings, who thought it was exaggerated, who trusted only in their own strength. The first group will pass through the storm with wounds, with difficulties, but fundamentally intact. Their faith will emerge stronger, their families more united. They will have powerful testimonies of how God protected them. The second group, many of them will not survive spiritually. They will shipwreck in faith, become bitter, resentful toward God, unable to understand why they were hit so hard. Let me be more specific about what can happen to an unprotected home during the storm of 2026. First, demonic infestation. When spiritual oppression increases globally, demons who normally just circulate seek places to settle. Homes without spiritual protection are like five-star hotels for them. They enter, make nests, and begin influencing the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors of everyone living there. You begin to have thoughts that are not your own, destructive impulses that appear out of nowhere, disproportionate anger, sudden depression, addictions that appear or intensify, and you do not realize you are being attacked. You think it is just a bad phase. Second, family fragmentation. When demons of division have free access to a home, they work to destroy relationships. Husband and wife begin to drift apart. Small irritations turn into wars. Children rebel against parents in extreme ways. Siblings become enemies. And it all happens so gradually that the family does not realize they are being manipulated until it is too late, until the wounds are so deep they seem irreparable. How many families do you know that have fallen apart in recent years for no apparent reason? It was not without reason. It was a coordinated spiritual attack on unprotected homes. Third, loss of faith. This is perhaps the most tragic. When you face trial after trial, without seeing God's hand protecting you, without experiencing His comforting presence, it is easy to begin to doubt, to start thinking that God does not care, or worse, that God does not exist. And once that doubt enters, it grows like cancer. It consumes the faith you had. It turns you into someone cynical, skeptical, spiritually dead. And the worst part is that this does not have to happen, because God is offering protection. But you need to accept it, to implement it. There is a report of a man in Poland who was warned about the need for spiritual protection in his home. He had a beautiful family, a devoted wife, 3 young children, and an apparently blessed life. But when he heard about the plants, he laughed. "This is paganism," he said. "I trust only in God. I do not need plants." There is dangerous arrogance in this kind of thinking, because God works through means. He used clay and saliva to heal a blind man. He used the waters of the Jordan to heal Naaman. He used the bronze serpent to save the Israelites. He constantly uses natural elements as vehicles of His supernatural grace. Rejecting these means is not a sign of pure faith, it is spiritual pride. 6 months later, that man's life had become a nightmare. His eldest son began having violent outbursts, breaking things, hurting his siblings. His wife fell into deep depression and was hospitalized. He himself lost his job after a nervous breakdown at work. And when, finally desperate, he sought spiritual help, the exorcist who attended him looked at him and said, "Your home is infested. There are demons in every room, and they are there because you opened the door when you rejected the protection the Mother of God offered." The man broke down, cried as he had never cried before, and finally, humbled, implemented everything he should have done from the beginning. It took months to clean up the spiritual mess that had been created. It could have been completely avoided. Do you want to be that man? Do you want to learn the hard way, or do you want to be wise and prepare while there is still time? Because time is running out quickly. Every day that passes brings us closer to 2026. Every week you delay implementing these protections is another week of vulnerability. And with the acceleration of prophetic events we are seeing, there is no guarantee that you will have tomorrow to do what you should do today.